Why does life feel so heavy even when we try to smile? Why do we keep helping others, loving deeply, hoping sincerely, and still find ourselves in pain? Have you ever laid in bed at night, wondering why everything seems to fall apart just when you start to believe it's finally coming together? Imagine a person who gives everything for others, time, care, even love, but slowly realizes that no one notices, no one returns the same. One day, they ask themselves, is it me? Or is this just how life is? That simple question opens a door to something deeper, the truth of suffering. Welcome to Wisdom Woven, a place where ancient truths are gently spoken from modern hearts. If you're tired of pretending, if you're exhausted from smiling while suffering inside, this video is for you. But before we begin, I want to tell you something important. There's so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% subscribes. So please, don't just watch silently. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. That simple click can help spread a message someone truly needs right now. Now let's begin. The Buddha's first teaching after his enlightenment wasn't about joy or peace. It was about suffering. Not because he wanted people to be sad, but because he wanted them to understand the truth deeply. Without knowing suffering, we can never be free from it. Suffering isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. It hides behind a smile. It hides in busy routines, and I'm fine, and everything's okay. Buddhism doesn't deny suffering. It invites us to face it. The first noble truth says, life is suffering. But what does that mean? It doesn't mean life is only pain. It means that even in good moments, there's a shadow. We fear losing what we love. We fear not getting what we want. This suffering, called dukkha in Buddhism, comes in many forms. Physical pain, emotional loss, change, fear, and even boredom. No one escapes it. Not the rich, not the poor, not the wise. But here's the important thing. Acknowledging suffering is not weakness. It's the beginning of wisdom. Just like a doctor cannot heal without knowing the illness, we cannot grow unless we first see where the pain lives. The Buddha's path isn't about escaping life. It's about looking at it clearly, softly, and fully. Through that clarity, something begins to shift. In this series, you will learn not only why suffering exists, but how to live beyond it. Not by ignoring life, but by understanding it. Let's begin this journey, not away from suffering, but through it, together. The origin of our pain, what we fail to see. Sit down for a while, my dear one. Let your heart breathe. Let your thoughts rest like leaves floating on a still pond. You have listened to the truth. That life is filled with suffering. Now, let's gently walk into the next question. Why does suffering arise? Where does it come from? You see, many people think pain comes only from outside, like losing someone, being poor, or getting hurt. But let me tell you something soft and quiet, something most never realize. Most of our suffering starts inside. Like a fire, suffering needs fuel. And do you know what that fuel is? Desire, craving, wanting. The Buddha called it tanha, the thirst. This thirst is not just for water or food. No, it's deeper. It's the thirst for things to be our way. The thirst to never be alone. The thirst to be liked. The thirst to have more, to be more, to control what cannot be controlled. Let me give you a simple example. A man plants a flower in his garden. It blooms beautifully. Every morning, he smiles when he sees it. But then, he starts fearing, what if it withers? What if someone picks it? What if the weather harms it? This fear didn't come from the flower. It came from his attachment, his desire to keep it just the way it is. This is how desire quietly gives birth to suffering. We're like that man, are we? We cling to people, places, feelings, and even moments. We say, stay like this forever. But life doesn't listen to that. Life moves, and when we resist that movement, we suffer. There's another side of desire too, not just want to hold on, but wanting to avoid. We don't want discomfort. We don't want sadness. We don't want to be alone. We run from it. But just like a shadow follows you, what you run from begins to chase you. The more we avoid pain, the more it grows quietly in some hidden part of our mind. Let me tell you something that may surprise you. Even happiness can lead to suffering. Why? Because we start craving it. We say, This moment is so beautiful. I don't want it to end. But everything ends, doesn't it? That's the nature of life. And the more we try to hold it, the more it slips like sand between our fingers. The Buddha taught that craving is the root of suffering. He didn't say this with anger. He said it like a doctor pointing to the cause of illness. This is where it begins, he said. If you understand this, you can begin to heal. Now, don't be too hard on yourselves. It's natural to desire. It's how we were raised. We were taught to chase success, love, beauty, fame. We were told, if you get all this, you'll be happy. But have you noticed? Even when you get those things, peace doesn't stay long. One desire is met, another rises. The first never ends. Desire is like a wheel. It keeps turning. We run and run, thinking happiness is just around the corner. But the corner keeps moving. That's how people get tired. That's how they break. Not because life is cruel, but because they keep chasing what cannot be caught. Let me pause and ask you this. Have you ever wanted something so badly, only to find out later that it didn't bring the joy you expected? Maybe it was a relationship. Maybe it was a job. Maybe it was a goal. The joy came, and then it faded. And maybe it even brought more problems. This is not your fault. This is the nature of wanting. Now, listen deeply, because this is important. Wanting something is not evil. It becomes a problem only when we believe it will complete us. The Buddha never said, don't enjoy life. He said, don't let your joy depend on something you can lose. Desire creates a constant hunger. Even while we eat, we plan our next meal. Even while we rest, we dream of what's next. The mind keeps pulling us forward, never letting us be where we are. And this endless pulling is what hurts us the most. Think of a child playing in the sand. He builds a castle. He laughs, not caring if the wind blows it away. But as adults, we build our castles and demand it last forever. We forget the wind is part of life too. Do you see, my dear one, how much of our pain comes not from the world, but from the mind's grip on how it should be? The tighter we grip, the more it hurts. If we could just loosen that grip, even a little, peace would start to enter. I'm not asking you to give up all desires today. That would be like asking the sun not to rise. No, I'm simply asking you to watch your desires. Notice them. Ask yourselves, is this coming from peace or fear? Is this leading me to freedom or more hunger? Awareness is the first step. When you notice the craving, you can choose differently. You can say, I see you, desire. I will let you rule me this time. Slowly, step by step, your mind becomes calmer. The fire dims. The heart softens. You stop chasing. You start seeing. And in that seeing, suffering begins to dissolve. Let me end this part with something simple but deep. Freedom is not getting what you want. It's wanting less. That is the second truth the Buddha shared. Not to scare us, but to set us free. He said, there's a cause of suffering. And when we understand it, we begin to heal. So now sit with this truth. Not in fear, but in gentleness. Look at your own lives. Not with judgment, but with quiet curiosity. What have you been chasing? What have you been avoiding? What if peace was not in the next thing, but in letting go? You're not broken. You're simply waking up. Let's walk gently together into the next part. There, we will look more closely at this first we call desire, and how it quietly shapes our suffering. Until then, just breathe and notice why desire becomes our silent enemy. You have come again, little one. Sit. Let the world slow down around you. Let the noise fade like the wind after a storm. Today we will speak of something that hides quietly in your heart. Something so small, yet so powerful. It is called desire. You see, suffering doesn't always come with sharp pain or loud cries. Sometimes it arrives wrapped in sweetness. It tells you, you will be happy when you get this, or when you achieve that. At first, it feels like a soft dream. But in truth, it is the beginning of a long chase. And this chase, this endless reaching, it is where suffering grows silently. Desire, in itself, is not evil. Wanting food when hungry, wanting shelter when cold, these are natural. But the trouble begins when desire turns into craving. When the heart says, I must have it, or I can't be happy. That's when peace begins to disappear. A young monk once came to me, his eyes filled with tears. "Master," he said, "I do everything right, but I still feel empty." I asked him, "We want most?" He answered, "I want to be respected. I want others to see how hard I try." That was a shame. We often think suffering comes from outside, from people, events, or failures. But most often, it starts within, where desire grows silently. Like a seed, it seems small, but given attention, it becomes a tree with deep roots, roots that hold the heart tight and won't let go. You desire love, success, beauty, control. And when you get a little, the mind says, more. When you lose it, the heart says, why me? This is how suffering is born. Let me tell you a short story. There was once a man who found a rare gemstone. He felt rich, proud, special. He showed it to everyone. But one day he misplaced it. He turned the house upside down, searched for days. He lost sleep, lost peace. When someone asked, "Why are you suffering so much?" he replied, "Because it was mine." But was it ever truly his? No, it came and it went. Only his attachment to it remained. And that caused his pain. This is how desire fools us. It makes us believe happiness is something outside, in things, people, moments. It tells us to chase, and chase, and chase. But no matter how far we run, we never feel complete, because the heart that wants more will always be hungry. In Buddhism, we call this tanha, craving. It is like thirst, but not for water. It is thirst for more money, more attention, more control, more beauty. But the more we drink, the thirstier we become. Some people think, if I just reach this goal, then I'll be happy. But when they reach it, they feel joy for a moment. And then emptiness returns. Like building sandcastles too close to the sea, the waves always come. Now listen, child. The problem is not the dream. The problem is when the dream becomes your master. When you think, without this, I am nothing. That thought, that is suffering. It ties your worth to things that can disappear in a moment. So what is the way out? It is not to stop living, not to give up all things. No, that is not the middle path. The Buddha didn't say, desire nothing. He said, see clearly. See what you chase. Ask, will this bring lasting peace, or only temporary pleasure? That small question can save you from much pain. I once had a disciple who wanted to be the best in everything. Best monk, best speaker, best meditator. He was always tense, always comparing. I asked him, when will you rest? He looked confused. After I succeed, he said, poor soul, always climbing a ladder that never ends. Do not wait for peace at the top of your goals. There is no peace there if your steps are filled with restlessness. Instead, walk slowly, gently, and ask your heart, am I at peace now? Many people confuse desire with motivation, but they are not the same. Motivation grows from wisdom. It says, I will act with purpose, but I am not attached to results. Desire, however, says, I must have it, or I will suffer. Do you see the difference? When you meditate, when you sit in silence, watch the desires rise. Like waves on the ocean. Some are loud, some are soft, but all say the same thing. You are not enough without me. Don't fight them. Don't chase them. To smile and let them pass. The more you observe desire, the weaker it becomes. And one day, you will wake up and find something new. Stillness. The joy that doesn't ask for anything more. A peace that doesn't depend on the world. A young woman once told me, Master, I used to want love from someone else so badly. But after months of sitting with myself, I found a love inside that doesn't beg, doesn't cling, doesn't ache. It's just there. I smiled. That is the love born when craving ends. Let go of the illusion that happiness is somewhere else, in some future moment. Peace is not tomorrow, it is now. And the first step is seeing how desire leads you away from now. You don't need to burn your desires or kill them. Just understand them. Bow to them with awareness. Say, I see you, but I no longer believe you. That is wisdom. The Buddha did not teach us to hate life. He taught us to understand it, to see how suffering is born and how can end. So next time your heart whispers, If only I had this, then I'd be happy. Pause, breathe, and ask, is that true? Most of the time, the answer will surprise you. Come back tomorrow, little one. We will continue. Today, sit quietly for a few minutes. Watch your thoughts, watch your desires, and slowly begin to smile at them, like clouds passing across the sky. The sky does not hold the clouds, and neither must you hold your cravings. You're already enough. How attachment chains the soul. Ah, you have come again, seeker. Sit down. Let the world pause. Let the noise quiet itself. Today we shall speak about something that feels warm at first, but burns later. Something that promises joy, yet quietly builds sorrow. Yes, I am speaking of attachment. Many people confuse love with attachment. They believe holding on tighter means caring more. But tell me, if you hold a bird too tightly in your hands, will it not suffer? Will it not try to fly? Or even die for the pressure of your love? This is the nature of attachment. Attachment is not the same as connection. No, connection allows you to feel deeply, while also letting go freely. Attachment is different. It clings. It wraps itself around the heart like vines around a tree. Slowly, quietly, it begins to strangle your peace. Why do we attach? Because we believe something or someone will complete us. A lover, a child, a friend, even a dream. We say, without this, I am nothing. That is the birth of suffering. That is the beginning of the chain. Let me tell you a small story. Once, a man had a beautiful clay cup. He used it every day to drink his tea. It was simple, but it gave him comfort. He loved it. But one day it fell and cracked. The man was heartbroken, not because it was expensive, but because he believed his joy was inside that cup. When the cup broke, so did his illusion. He wasn't attached to the cup itself. He was attached to the feeling it gave him. This is how suffering sneaks in. Not loudly, but gently. With smiles. With memories. With comfort. We tie our happiness to things that will one day change, or leave, or end. And when they do, our heart breaks. Not because the world is cruel, but because we build our peace on something that was never permanent. In Buddhism, we call this upadana, clinging, grasping. It is one of the fuels that keep the fire of suffering alive. There are 4 kinds of attachments: to sense pleasures, to views and opinions, to rituals and traditions, and to the idea of a permanent self. Each one is like a rope tying us to the cycle of suffering. Attachment to sense pleasures is the most obvious. We crave sweet tastes, soft touches, beautiful faces, nice words. But all these are temporary. A beautiful flower fades. A soft voice grows silent. If our joy depends on these, our sorrow is guaranteed. Then there's attachment to opinions. This is right, this is wrong. I know better. My way is the truth. Such thoughts close the mind. They harden the heart. And when someone disagrees, we feel attacked. Not because they harmed us, but because our identity was hiding in our beliefs. There's also attachment to rituals, to doing things just because they've always been done. We think if we follow a certain rule or pray in a certain way, we will be safe. But life does not obey our routines. It dances freely. When our rituals break, we feel lost. Not because life changed, but because we were attached to a form, not to the truth. And finally, the deepest attachment, the idea of self. I am this. I am that. I am smart. I am kind. I am broken. I am special. We wear labels like clothes, but forget we are not the clothes. We are the space underneath them. When someone challenges that identity, we feel shaken. Not because we are hurt, but because the self we built was never real. Seeker, understand this clearly. Love is not attachment. You can care deeply without clinging. You can support others without possessing them. True love gives freedom, not chains. When you attach, you say, you are mine. When you love freely, you say, you are you. And I am glad to walk beside you. One path leads to suffering, the other to peace. Now, you might ask, but Master, isn't it natural to want to hold on to people we love? Isn't it human to fear loss? Yes, it is human. But the path of awakening invites us to be more than what is usual. It asks us to be gentle witnesses to life, not desperate controllers of it. This does not mean you stop caring. No, it means you care without expecting. You give without needing. You live without demanding. That is the power of detachment, not coldness, but clarity. Not distance, but depth. When you let go of attachment, your hands are empty, but your heart is full. You begin to see the world as it truly is, changing, flowing, imperfect, yet deeply beautiful. You learn to love the moment, without needing it to last forever. And what peace that brings. No more anxiety about losing. No more jealousy. No more fear. You begin to float, lightly. You walk through storms, but you are not soaked. You face loss, but you are not broken. You are alive, awake, and free. Let me share another small lesson from the Zen tradition. A monk once asked his master, "How can I let go of everything?" The master smiled and replied, "Who is holding it? That is the secret. Often, it is not the thing that binds us, it is our hands. When you open them, when you release your grip, you don't lose the world. You gain your freedom. So, ask yourself gently today, what am I holding too tightly? What pain is growing from what I refuse to release? What would happen if I just let go? Not all at once. No need to rush, but step by step, thought by thought, feeling by feeling. You are not your past. You are not your pain. You are not your possessions or your titles. You are the awareness watching all of these come and go. That awareness is not attached. It simply observes, and in that observation, it finds peace. Walk slowly, dear one. Watch the world as if it were a dream, not because it is unreal, but because it is always moving. The more you chase it, the more it runs. The more you rest, the clearer it becomes. Let this truth sink into your heart. What you let go of was never truly yours, and what is truly yours will never leave you. Let us sit in silence now, not to escape, but to understand. In the space between breaths, listen. Attachment says, "I need you to be happy." Wisdom says, "I am happy, and I share that with you." And that, dear seeker, is how the chain begins to loosen. When you are ready, we shall walk forward again. There is more to learn. But for now, just breathe. Breathe and let go. The illusion of control and its consequences. Come closer, my friend. Sit. Let the world slow down for a while. I see your heart is tired. Not just from what you do, but from what you try so hard to control. You think if you try hard enough, plan well enough, care deeply enough, you can make everything go the way you want. Isn't that true? But tell me, how often has life followed your script? You may try to control how others see you. You may try to make people stay. You may try to keep pain out and happiness in. But life does not move like a machine. It flows like a river. And rivers, my dear, do not obey hands that try to hold them still. Many people think that suffering only comes from bad situations. But one of the deepest roots of suffering is our need to control. This control hides in daily life. When plans don't go as expected, frustration rises. When people don't behave the way we hope, anger creeps in. When we don't feel how we think we should feel, sadness, shame, or even guilt takes over. Let me tell you a short story. There once was a man who planted a sapling in his garden. Every day, he watered it. He made a fence around it. He checked its leaves every morning and every evening. But he was impatient. He wanted it to grow faster. So one day, he tried pulling it upward slightly to stretch it. The next morning, the sapling had withered. His care turned into control, and the plant could not survive it. You see, control comes from fear. The fear that something might go wrong. The fear that if you don't hold tightly, you will lose everything. But in truth, the tighter you hold, the more things slip away. In Buddhism, this illusion of control is one of the main causes of dukkha, or suffering. Why? Because it clashes with the truth of impermanence. Nothing stays the same. People change. Emotions change. Health changes. Even your thoughts and desires change. When we try to control what cannot be controlled, we are always at war with life itself. You may say, but how can I live without trying to control things? Shall I just let chaos happen? No, my dear. Letting go of control does not mean becoming careless. It means becoming wise. It means understanding the difference between what you can influence and what you must accept. You can plant seeds, but you cannot control the rain. You can speak kindly, but you cannot control how others receive your words. You can love deeply, but you cannot force someone to stay. Real wisdom is knowing where your effort ends and life begins. When we are attached to control, we suffer every time life changes course. And life always changes course. People often try to control their emotions, too. They think they should always be calm, always happy, always strong. But emotions are like weather, they come and go. The more you resist them, the more powerful they become. The more you observe them with compassion, the more they pass like clouds. The Buddha taught us to walk the middle path, not to cling and not to push away. When we loosen the grip of control, we start to flow with life instead of fighting it. That is where true peace begins. Another story comes to mind. A Zen Master once had a prized tea bowl. It was old and beautifully cracked, full of history. One day, a student accidentally broke it. The master simply looked at the pieces and said, "Ah, now it is even more part of the story." He didn't scold. He didn't mourn. He didn't try to put it back as it was. He simply accepted it and smiled. Why? Because he knew that everything breaks, everything changes. But our peace doesn't have to break with it, unless we tie our peace to something that cannot stay. When you begin to understand this truth, you may feel sad at first. It could feel like letting go of a safety net. But keep going. What you're letting go of is not safety. It is a cage. Outside that cage, there's freedom. Freedom to love without fear of loss. Freedom to try without fear of failure. Freedom to rest without fear of falling behind. Let go of control, and you will feel lighter. Not because life gets easier, but because your heart stops fighting what it cannot win. There's one more thing I must share with you. Try to control life often leads us to control people. We don't mean to, but we try to shape their opinions, their behaviors, even their feelings, so that we feel safe. But no one wants to be controlled. Just like you, others want freedom. The more you try to hold someone in a box, the more they will want to run from you. Real love is not control. It is space. It is support without possession. When you trust life, you give others the gift of freedom too. And so I ask you now, what are you holding too tightly? What are you afraid will fall apart if you let go? And what would happen if you didn't try to fix it, but simply allowed it to be? Sit with these questions. You don't need to answer them quickly. Let them settle in your heart like soft rain on dry soil. Control is a beautiful lie. It whispers, if you just try hard enough, you can keep everything together. But the truth, the peaceful, painful, and freeing truth, is that you don't need to keep it all together. You just need to be present as things fall and rise again, fall and rise again. Like the waves of the ocean, life moves beyond your reach. But your boat, your heart, can still sail calmly through it if you stop trying to command the sea. Let's keep walking this path, with open eyes, soft hands, and an honest heart, not to control the journey, but to walk it fully. We will meet again, deeper than before, understanding impermanence, the law of change. Come sit beside me. Breathe. Let go of everything you've been carrying all day. There's something I want to share with you, something so simple that most people miss it their entire lives. But once you see it, truly see it, your whole way of living can begin change. Let me ask you, have you ever watched a flower bloom? In the early morning, it begins tightly closed. Then slowly, with the rising sun, it opens. Beautiful, fragrant, alive. But wait long enough, and the petals will wilt. The color will fade, and the flower, once full of life, will eventually fall. This is not a tragedy. It is the law of nature. That law is called Anicca in Buddhism. It means impermanence. Nothing lasts forever. Not joy, not pain, not success, not failure, not even this moment we are sharing together right now. Why is it so important to understand this? Because most of our suffering begins when we try to hold on to things that are always meant to change. We try to keep the flower blooming forever. We try to freeze time when we are happy. We beg the sad days to leave and the good days to stay. But time doesn't listen. Life doesn't pause. Everything moves. Everything shifts. Let's look at our own lives. Think about your childhood, the people you loved, the places you knew. So much of it is gone now, isn't it? The home may have changed. Friends moved on. Even your face in a mirror is not the same. This is not because anything went wrong. It's because everything is part of the river of change. People often ask, why does it hurt so much when things end? The answer is simple, because we believe they would stay. And in that belief, we became attached. But impermanence means nothing can stay. Not people, not situations, not even emotions. The Buddha taught that suffering is born from attachment, and attachment is born from not understanding impermanence. When we realize deeply that everything changes, we stop trying to control the wave and instead learn to ride it. Now, this doesn't mean we stop loving. It doesn't mean we stop caring. It simply means we love knowing that what we love is temporary. And that makes it even more precious. Let me tell you a story. A monk once carried a beautiful teacup. He cherished it. It was simple, white, and delicate. When someone asked him why he seemed so peaceful even if it broke, he smiled and said, "I drink tea every day knowing the cup is already broken." He wasn't being negative. He was wise. Because everything we have is already changing, even if we don't see it yet. Knowing this doesn't make us hopeless. It makes us more grateful. We stop taking moments for granted. You may ask, what about pain? Does impermanence apply there too? Yes. That heartbreak you carry, it will soften. That anxiety in your chest, it will pass. That mistake you made, it will fade. No pain stays the same. Even when it feels endless, it is not. If you're going through a difficult time, please remember, this too shall pass. Just like clouds pass over the sky, your pain is only passing through. Do not build your home in sorrow. Do not believe the night will never end. Even the longest night gives way to dawn. Impermanence is a teacher. It reminds us that nothing is truly ours. Not our possessions, not our loved ones, not even our own body. One day, this body too will return to the earth. So what we do with this truth? We learn to live deeply without holding too tightly. Instead of saying, "I hope this never ends," we begin to say, "I am grateful this is happening now." Instead of fearing loss, we cherish presence. Instead of clinging to youth, we accept aging with grace. Many people think impermanence is a sad truth. But I tell you, it is the most beautiful truth. Because it teaches us that every smile, every sunset, every shared meal, every moment of peace is a gift. You don't need forever to make something meaningful. A single moment, lived fully, is enough. Look around you. Everything is changing. The seasons, the sounds, the people. Even your thoughts right now. They're not the same as they were 5 minutes ago. This is the nature of life. It flows. It doesn't wait. So let us not waste time in regret or fear. Some hold anger for years, not realizing that they are hurting themselves. But when we know all things are temporary, we begin to forgive. Because we know, even pain and betrayal are not solid. They are events, not permanent truths. This truth doesn't need to be believed. It only needs to be seen. Observe your breath. In, out, it comes, it goes. Even a breath is impermanent. If it didn't change, you wouldn't be alive. Let go of the belief that you can control life. You can't, but you can dance with it. You can learn its rhythm. And once you do, life stops being a battle and becomes a path. This is not an easy path. Sometimes you will fall. Sometimes you will cry. But you will also rise again, and laugh again, and feel peace again. This too is impermanence. So don't be afraid of endings. They're the doorways to new beginnings. When one thing ends, something else is allowed to begin. Like the tree that sheds its leaves, only to bloom again in spring. When we understand impermanence, we stop being afraid of time. We stop being controlled by fear. We become like the open sky, watching the clouds come and go without trying to hold them. And so, my dear listener, remember this teaching whenever your heart feels heavy. Nothing lasts. Nothing stays. But every moment is a chance to awaken. Stay present. Be kind. Love gently. And walk lightly. This moment is all you ever truly have. And that makes it sacred. Ego, the root that nourishes suffering. Dear friend, listen closely as I share with you a secret. One that many have missed because it hides behind a mask we all wear. This mask is called ego. The ego is like a shadow, always following us, whispering stories about who we are, what we deserve, and why things should be a certain way. But this shadow is the root that nourishes suffering. You see, the ego is not just pride or arrogance. It is the small voice inside that says, I am separate, I am better, or sometimes, I am less. It clings to a story of self, the story built on comparing, judging, and wanting to be seen in a particular way. From this story grows its suffering quietly and deeply. Imagine a small seed planted in fertile soil. The seed is the ego, and the soil is your mind. If you water this seed with thoughts of pride, jealousy, or fear, it grows into a thick vine that wraps tightly around your heart. This vine blocks the sunshine of peace and the fresh air of happiness. You may not notice at first, but over time, this vine chokes your joy and binds your spirit. Why does the ego create suffering? Because it demands constant attention. It wants to be praised, feared, loved, and never ignored. When the ego is praised, we feel good, but this feeling is fragile, like a bubble ready to burst. When the ego is ignored or challenged, it feels threatened, and in that threat, pain arises. Every time we say, this is mine, or I must be right, we are feeding the ego. We are telling ourselves that our way of seeing the world is the only way. But the world is vast, and truth has many faces. Clinging tightly to one face is like holding a sword that cuts both the hand and the heart. The Buddha taught that suffering begins with craving and attachment. The ego craves recognition, attachment to its identity. When these cravings are not met, suffering grows like a fire. When they are met, suffering may pause, but it never truly ends because the ego's thirst is endless. Have you ever noticed how people sometimes hurt others to feel bigger? Or how sadness grows when we feel invisible or unimportant? These are signs that the ego is wounded and thirsty. It mistakes the outside world as the source of its worth. But this is an illusion. Let me tell you a story. Once a proud man went to the wise Zen Master and said, I am important. I deserve respect more than others. The Master smiled and asked, Who are you without this importance? The man was silent. No answer came. The Master continued, When you lose this mask, who will you be? This silence is powerful. It reveals that beneath the ego's story is a simple being, a soul not separate, not better, not worse. But most people never reach this silence. They run away, chasing endless dreams of recognition, success, or revenge. The ego also creates suffering by dividing the world into me and others. It builds walls of separation. But these walls are not real. They are like shadows cast by a flame. When you see the flame, you know the shadows are illusions. In meditation, the veil of ego begins to lift. You begin to see thoughts as clouds passing by, not truths you must believe. The voice of ego softens. You realize that you are not your job, your status, or your failures. You are something much more vast, a witness to life itself. Suffering caused by the ego is like a storm in the mind. The storm rages when the wind of desire and the lightning of fear strike together. But the Zen path teaches us to sit quietly in the storm, not fighting it, not running from it, but watching it with gentle eyes. Slowly, the storm loses power. The sky clears. Remember, the ego loves to blame. It says, it is their fault or the world is unfair. But blaming only strengthens the ego's walls. True peace comes when you stop blaming and start seeing. When you see clearly, the ego's grip weakens. It is not easy to let go of ego. Like a child clinging to a favorite toy, the mind clings to identity. But with patience and kindness to yourself, the grip loosens. Every moment of awareness, every breath of mindfulness, is a small victory. In daily life, you may notice ego in many ways. When you feel jealousy toward a friend's success, or when you argue to prove your point, the ego is speaking. It is asking for attention, asking to be fed. But you have a choice, to listen or to let go. Letting go does not mean losing yourself. It means losing the false self, the ego self, and discovering the true self beneath. This true self is free from comparison, free from fear, and full of compassion. The Buddha did not ask us to destroy the ego by force. That would be like trying to cut a tree with a spoon. Instead, He showed us to understand the ego, to see it as a cloud that passes. When we see it clearly, we're no longer trapped by it. A simple practice to begin is to notice when the ego speaks. When you feel pride, jealousy, or anger, pause and ask, is this my true self or the ego's voice? This question opens a space between you and the ego. In that space, freedom grows. Over time, as you practice, the ego's stories lose their power. You begin to live more gently, more openly. You stop fighting the world and stop fighting yourself. Instead, you flow with life like water flowing around rocks, soft yet strong. Suffering lessens not because life changes, but because your relationship with your ego changes. The less you feed it, the weaker it becomes. And in its weakening, you find peace. Remember this, dear friend, the ego is not your enemy, but your teacher. It shows you where you are stuck. By embracing this teaching with patience and love, you walk the path toward true freedom. As the Zen Master said, when you lose the ego, you find yourself. This finding is not an arrival, but a constant unfolding, a beautiful dance between awareness and life. So, watch your ego, understand it, and slowly, gently, let it go. In this letting go, suffering loosens its hold, and the light of peace shines through. This is the path the Buddha showed us, a path not of battle, but of gentle understanding. The ego is a cloud, not the sky. When the cloud moves, the sky remains clear and vast. Walk this path with patience. Speak kindly to yourself, and know that every step towards seeing the ego clearly is a step away from suffering. Breaking the cycle, the Noble Eightfold Paths. Imagine for a moment that your mind is like a vast, wild forest. In this forest, tangled and thick, there are many paths, but most are overgrown with thorns and brambles. These thorny paths represent the habits and choices that lead to suffering. You keep walking these paths again and again, expecting to find peace, but all you find are scratches and pain. What if I told you there's a way to clear those paths? A way to cut through the thorns and find a gentle, open trail. A path that leads you out of suffering and into calm, true freedom? This is what the Buddha discovered, and he called it the Noble Eightfold Path. Many hear the word path and think it is a difficult journey, long and exhausting. But in truth, this path is natural and kind. It is not about pushing yourself to be perfect or better than others. It is about seeing clearly what is already within you and choosing to live with wisdom and compassion. The Eightfold Path is divided into 3 parts: wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. Each part supports the others like the legs of a sturdy stool. Without one, the stool falls. Let's begin with wisdom, the heart of the path. The first step is called right view. This means seeing the world as it truly is, without the distortions of desire or fear. It means understanding the truth of suffering, its causes, and the possibility of ending it. When you truly see how your own cravings and attachments create pain, you begin to loosen their grip on your heart. Next comes right intention. This is the decision to live kindly and with compassion. It means letting go of harmful thoughts like anger, greed, and jealousy, and choosing instead to nurture love and goodwill toward yourself and others. It is a daily choice, a gentle turning of the mind toward what is good and true. With wisdom in place, the path moves into ethical conduct, the way you live in the world. The first step here is right speech. It asks you to speak truthfully and kindly, not to use words to hurt or deceive, but to speak with honesty and care. This creates trust and peace, both inside and in your relationships. Right action is next. It means acting in ways that do not harm yourself or others. This includes simple things like not stealing, not killing, and living with respect for all lives. When your actions are kind and thoughtful, your mind feels lighter and freer. Then comes right livelihood, choosing work and ways of living that support peace and do not cause harm. This teaches that what you do each day matters deeply. It is not only the big decisions, but the small ones, the everyday choices that shape your path. The final section is mental discipline, where the mind is trained to rest peacefully and clearly. Right effort encourages you to gently guide your thoughts away from negativity and toward positive qualities like patience and joy. It is not about forcing the mind, but kindly redirecting it. Right mindfulness means being fully present in each moment. Instead of living in regrets about the past or worries about the future, you learn to watch your thoughts, feelings, and sensations without judgment. This awareness is like a calm lake reflecting everything clearly. Finally, right concentration is the deep focus that comes with meditation. It is the training of the mind to settle naturally, to become calm and steady, like a mountain unmoved by the winds. Together, these 8 steps create a circle of support. When you walk this path, slowly and with patience, you begin to see how your suffering was created by habits of mind. You learn to untangle the knots of craving and fear. But this path is not a quick fix. It is a lifelong practice, a gentle unfolding. Some days the forest may still feel dark and confusing, but the path is always there, waiting to guide you home. Many who hear about the Eightfold Path feel overwhelmed. How can I do all this? They wonder. But the beauty of this teaching is that it meets you exactly where you are. You do not have to be perfect. Even a small step on this path is a step away from suffering. Think of it like learning to walk again after a fall. You don't leap up and run immediately. You rise slowly, steady your balance, and take one careful step at a time. Each step builds strength and confidence. The Zen Master teaches that the path is not outside of you. It is your own breath, your own mind, your own heart. When you practice right mindfulness, you begin to see clearly the patterns that cause suffering. You see the habits that pull you away from peace and choose to let them go. This is not easy. Old habits are like stubborn roots. But with patience and kindness toward yourself, you begin to loosen their hold. Imagine now that you have walked the path for some time. You notice that the thorns are fewer and the air feels lighter. You no longer stumble as often. You begin to experience moments of peace, even in difficult times. This is the fruit of the Noble Eightfold Path, a mind that is freer, a heart that is softer. The Buddha did not promise that life would be without pain. He showed that pain is part of existence, but suffering is optional. Suffering comes from resistance, from grasping and aversion. When you walk the path with wisdom and compassion, you learn to meet life as it is, without adding more pain. The path teaches you to live fully in the present moment. You learn to accept change, loss, and uncertainty with a gentle mind. This acceptance does not mean giving up. It means facing life honestly and bravely. In Zen, we say, when walking, walk. When eating, eat. This simple teaching means to be fully present, fully alive in each moment. The Noble Eightfold Path guides you to do just that, not lost in regrets or worries, but grounded in reality. Remember, the path is not a straight line. Sometimes you may wander or fall back in old ways. This is part of the journey. The Buddha himself taught patience and forgiveness for oneself. Each day is a new chance to return to the path. The Eightfold Path is a map, not a prison. It shows the way out of suffering, but you must walk it yourself. Like a lantern in the dark, it lights your steps, but does not carry you. You are the one who must choose to take one step, then another, with care and courage. As you do, you discover a freedom you never thought possible, a freedom that comes from understanding, compassion, and deep peace. So, take this teaching gently into your heart. Walk the path with kindness toward yourself and others. Know that every step you take is a step away from suffering and toward awakening. This is the way of the Buddha. This is the way of true freedom. Compassion as the antidote to suffering. Come, sit down with me. There's something gentle we need to talk about today. Something soft, yet strong. Something that can melt even the deepest pain. Is compassion. You see, many people think that to be free of suffering, they must escape the world, run away to the mountains, close their hearts. But the Buddha did not teach escape. He taught understanding. And understanding, my dear one, always opens the door to compassion. Let me ask you, when was the last time you saw someone truly hurting, not just on the outside, but inside, and felt your heart quietly break a little for them? That small crack in the heart, that tenderness, it's not weakness. It is the beginning of something sacred. In this path of Buddhism, we do not just talk about suffering. We touch it. We sit with it. Not only our own, but others too. And this is where compassion enters. Many think compassion means pity. No. Pity looks down. Compassion kneels beside. Pity says, you are broken. Compassion says, I have also been broken, and I'm still here with you. Do you feel the difference? The Buddha taught that suffering is shared. It is not just yours or mine. It is part of being human. And when we see that clearly, something beautiful happens. The walls between me and you begin to dissolve. Let me tell you a story. A student once asked me, "Master, if I want to be enlightened, should I shut myself away from the world?" I smiled gently and replied, "No. Go sit by a sick man. Feed a hungry dog. Listen to a lonely elder. If your heart doesn't tremble in these moments, you're not truly awake yet." Compassion is the movement of an awakened heart. When you open to another's suffering, without judgment, without trying to fix it immediately, you begin to heal both them and yourselves. But I know what you might ask. "Master, how can I show compassion when my own heart is hurting?" That is a wise question. And the answer is this. Even broken hands can hold another gently. In fact, the ones who have been hurt often carry the softest touch. Your pain doesn't disqualify you from being kind. It deepens your understanding. When you have suffered, even a small smile becomes precious. You start noticing the silent battles others are fighting too. Now, this compassion in Buddhist practice is not just a feeling. It's a practice. We cultivate it like a garden. We water it daily with awareness and effort. There's a word in Buddhism, karu. It means compassionate action. Not just emotion, but movement. Sometimes that action is simple. Holding someone's hand when they grieve. Letting someone speak without interrupting. Offering food to someone hungry. Forgiving someone, not because they deserve it, but because you want peace more than punishment. But sometimes, the most compassionate act is toward yourself. Yes, you. You are tired, who have been strong for too long, who blames yourself for being sad. Can you sit beside your own suffering the way you would sit beside a dear friend? When you stop trying to fix or force yourself to get over it, when you simply say, "It's okay to feel this," you become your own refuge. That is real compassion. In Buddhism, we use something called metta-bhavana, the practice of loving kindness. We begin by sending kind thoughts to ourselves, then to someone we love, then to someone neutral, then even to someone difficult, until finally we send it to all beings. Why do we do this? Because suffering does not choose favorites, and neither should compassion. Imagine a world where every person paused once a day to silently wish peace for someone they'll never meet. What kind of world would that be? Now listen closely. Compassion does not mean agreeing with everything. It doesn't mean becoming weak or letting people walk over you. True compassion has boundaries. True compassion knows when to say no, but without hate. The Dalai Lama once said, "Be kind whenever possible." It is always possible. This doesn't mean life will always be gentle, but you can be. And here's something powerful. When you practice compassion, your own suffering becomes lighter. Not because it disappears, but because now you're not carrying only your pain. You are walking beside others. And in that shared journey, something lifts. A person once asked the Buddha, "What is the best way to purify the heart?" The Buddha answered, "Serve others. Not for reward, not for praise, but because in helping others rise, we also rise." Let's remember, the world does not need more critics. It needs more listeners, more quiet shoulders, more people who can say, "I understand." That's where healing begins. You don't need to be perfect to offer compassion. You just need to be present. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to care enough to stay close. Sometimes, when someone is in pain, they don't need advice. They need your silent presence, your patient breath, your steady kindness. Be that presence. Be that safe space. And yes, people may not always appreciate your compassion. Some may take it for granted. Some may even misuse it. But don't let that harden you. Keep your heart soft. Not because the world is always gentle, but because you choose to be. Remember, compassion is not weakness. It is courage. It is strength that does not shout. It is a light that does not burn. It warms. So as we walk this path together, let's not only seek to end our own suffering. Let's look around. Let us extend a hand, a word, a breath, a moment of patience. Because sometimes, that is all it takes to remind someone they are not alone. And in doing so, we remind ourselves too. We're all walking through life, carrying stories no one sees. But when we meet one another with compassion, something quiet and sacred happens. We begin to heal. And that is no small thing. Stillness in chaos. The power of mindfulness. Come, sit down. There is no rush here. The world is always rushing. Cars on a street, people chasing goals, voices in your head. But here, just for a little while, let's slow down. Breathe with me, deeply, gently. Let the noise outside fade, just a little. Today, I want to talk to you about a treasure that many have forgotten. Mindfulness is not something far or strange. It is already inside you, waiting quietly. It has been waiting every time you blink, every time your feet touch the ground, every time your heart beats. But you may ask, Master, how can I be still when life is so chaotic? When there is so much pain, fear, and pressure around me? Ah, that is the very reason why you must learn stillness. Not to escape life, but to return to it, with presence, with clarity, with strength. Let me share something with you. There was once a young man who came to me, his face full of worry. He said, "My mind feels like a storm. Thoughts don't stop. I can't sleep. I can't breathe fully. What do I do?" I did not give him a chant or a spell. I poured a cup of tea. He watched as I slowly lifted the kettle, slowly poured the water, slowly placed the cup before him. Not a word. After a few moments, I said, "Did you notice the sound of the pouring water? The warmth of the steam on your skin? The scent of the tea?" He looked at me and said, "I didn't. I was thinking about my problems." I smiled. That's the problem. Mindfulness is not something extra to do. It is the art of being here now. Not yesterday. Not tomorrow. Just now. When you walk, you walk. When you eat, you eat. When you listen, you truly listen. That's all. But simple does not mean easy. The mind is wild. It likes to jump. Even now, as you hear my words, part of your mind is thinking about what to do after this, or remembering something painful. That's okay. Minds are like that. Mindfulness is not about having a perfect mind. It's about noticing. That's all. Noticing your breath. Noticing your steps. Noticing your feelings, even the hard ones, without pushing them away or judging them. You don't have to fix everything. You just have to see clearly. And in that clarity, suffering begins to soften. Let me give you another image. Imagine a muddy river. If you try to clean it by shaking the water, the mud only rises. But if you let the water be still, slowly, the mud settles. Clarity comes not by force, but by stillness. In the same way, when you sit with your breath, with no goal, just noticing, your mental mud begins to settle. The fear, the anger, the sadness, they may still be there, but they lose their sharpness. They stop controlling you. Now let's talk about chaos. The world is chaotic. Wars, illness, deadlines, lost relationships, social media, confusion. But chaos outside doesn't have to become chaos inside. Have you ever seen a candle flame in a quiet room? It stands tall and bright. Now put the same candle in the wind. It flickers wildly. Mindfulness is like creating a glass shield around that flame. The wind still blows outside, but inside, the light remains steady. You don't need a mountain to find peace. You don't need silence around you to be still inside. You need attention. That's all. Gentle, kind attention. Breathe again with me. Don't control the breath. Just notice it. Feel the air coming in, going out. You've done this thousands of times. Yet how often have you truly noticed? Now touch your hand gently. Feel your heartbeat. That is your body speaking. This is mindfulness. This is life in its purest form. In Buddhism, we use the term sati. It means awareness, presence. The Buddha taught that with right mindfulness, suffering begins to fade. Why? Because much of our pain comes from being pulled by memory, by imagination, by fear, by regret. When you're mindful, you stop running. You stop resisting. You start seeing. And what you see, you begin to understand. And what you understand, you begin to heal. Mindfulness is not just for meditation. It's for dishwashing, for walking to the bus stop, for brushing your teeth, for listening to someone's pain. Every moment is a gate. You can walk through in a hurry, where you can enter with awareness and grace. Now listen carefully. Mindfulness is not being numb. It is being fully alive. It is feeling sadness without being broken. It is feeling joy without becoming attached. It is seeing someone's anger without reacting from your own. Let me share another story. There was a Zen monk named Tetsujin. During a famine, he was collecting donations to publish Buddhist scriptures. But seeing the people starving, he used the money to feed the hungry. Later, he collected again. Another disaster came. He gave the money away again. Only on the third try did he finally publish the scriptures. People praised his book, but others said, the first two, where he fed the people, that was the real scripture. This is mindfulness. Not locked in a temple, but alive in the world. Not distant, but deeply connected. The more mindful you become, the more kind you become. Because you see others suffering. You hear their silence. You become soft, not weak, but soft like water. And water, my dear friend, carves through rock. In modern life, people want quick results. Give me peace in 1 minute. But mindfulness is like watering a plant. You can't shout at it to grow. You show up. You water it. You get a light. That's all. And one day, without noise, it blooms. So today, I ask you not to change the whole world. Just take one step. When you eat your next meal, eat it slowly. When you talk to your friend, truly listen. When your mind becomes noisy, breathe once. Then again, that is the doorway. That is the miracle. Mindfulness is the master key. It doesn't end suffering in a moment, but it makes suffering lighter, clearer, and less frightening. It gives you space. And in that space, you find strength. The world will continue spinning. People will come and go. Storms will rise. But inside you, there could be a calm lake. Still, reflective, deep, return to your breaths. That is home. And every time you forget, you can return again. No shame, no failure, only practice. This is not magic. This is not religion. This is your life, fully lived, one mindful breath at a time. And that, my dear one, is the beginning of the end of suffering. Not in some faraway heaven, but right here, where you are, in this very breath. Freedom through letting go. Sit quietly, my dear friend. Let the noise fall away for a while. No need to chase anything now. You walked a long path. You've faced many storms within yourself, and you're still here. Still breathing. Still listening. That is enough. Today, I will speak to you about something simple, but not easy. It is something everyone talks about, but few truly understand. Letting go. Letting go is not forgetting. It is not pretending that something didn't happen. It is not becoming cold or careless. No, my friend. Letting go means freedom. It means choosing peace over control. It means choosing presence over possession. Let me tell you a story. There once were two monks walking down a muddy path. As they reached a river, they saw a woman struggling to cross. One monk quickly picked her up and carried her across the water. The other monk remained silent. Hours later, he finally spoke. Why did you carry the woman? We are monks. We shouldn't touch women. The first monk smiled gently. I left her at the river. Are you still carrying her? Do you understand? Many of us are still carrying people, moments, words, and wounds long after they have left the river of our lives. We replay old arguments. We hold grudges like sharp stones in our pockets. We refuse to forgive ourselves. And in doing so, we suffer again and again, even though the event is already over. Letting go does not erase the past. It allows the present to breathe. It lets you set down the burden you've been carrying in your heart. Sometimes the heaviest things are invisible. Expectations, regret, fear of loss, pain of betrayal, guilt for things done or not done. These become like chains, keeping us bound even when nothing outside is holding us anymore. Buddhism teaches that suffering arises from clinging. We cling to ideas of who we should be, how others should behave, what life should look like. We even cling to sadness, to identity built from pain, because it's familiar, because it feels safe, even if it hurts. But the truth is, nothing stays. People change. Feelings fade. Seasons turn. The river of life flows whether we accept it or not. To resist it is to exhaust yourself. To flow with it is to be free. Letting go begins when you stop saying, this should not have happened. Instead, you say, it has happened. Now can I learn? How can I grow? You see, we do not suffer because we experience pain. We suffer because we refuse to release it, like holding a burning coal in your hand and blaming the fire for the pain. The Buddha said, you will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger. The same is true of attachment, pride, envy, and resentment. Now you may ask, but how do I let go? It feels impossible. Start small. Let go of needing to be right in every conversation. Let go of trying to please everyone. Let go of the need to fix everything. Let go of your own harsh voice inside that says, I am not enough. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care with open hands instead of clenched fists. You love someone, but you don't try to control them. You remember the past, but you don't live in it. You plan for the future, but you are not trapped by fear. Try this. Take a breath. Hold it tight. Feel the tension. Now exhale. That moment, that release, is what letting go feels like in the soul. Another story for you. A student asked the master, how do I achieve peace? The master replied, remove that is ego. Remove what? That is desire. What remains is peace. Letting go is not loss. It is return. Return to your true self, before the labels, the stories, the heartbreak. That part of you that watches everything calmly. The observer, the silent witness. Many people think they need to get something to be free. But true freedom comes from dropping something. Not gating, but releasing. Releasing the tight hold on how you thought life should go. Letting go of the old version of you that no longer fits. Look at the trees. In autumn, they let go of every leaf. Not in sadness, but in trust. Trust that spring will come again. The tree does not resist the wind. It bends. And because of that, it does not break. This is the way of the wise. Letting go does not happen all at once. It happens breath by breath. One decision at a time. Some days, you'll feel light. Other days, the same weight will return. That is okay. You are not failing. You are healing. There will be things you cannot change. People you will lose. Situations that will never be fair. Life will not always explain itself. But peace is not found in having answers. Peace is found in surrender. Remember this. To hold on is to be dragged. To let go is to be free. So today, let go of the old story, of the pain you rehearse, of the belief that you are broken. You are not broken. You're just carrying too much. Sit it down now. Breathe, smile gently, and walk forward, lighter than before. That is the power of letting go. That is the beginning of freedom. And that freedom, my friend, already lives inside you. The end of suffering, awakening the inner peace. Come, sit down, my friend. Breathe gently. You have walked far. You have listened, felt, reflected. This path we walk together, step by step through the truths of suffering, desire, ego, and letting go, has not been easy. But now we have come to the final part. And this part is about peace. Let me ask you something very softly, almost like a whisper to your heart. Haven't you always longed for a quiet place inside you? A place that no noise, no hurt, no person can disturb? A place where even if the world turns upside down, you remain still like a mountain, calm like a sleeping river? Yes, that place exists. Not in the sky, not in some far land, but here, inside you. And that, dear one, is what the Buddha meant when he spoke of the end of suffering. But don't think it means that pain disappears forever. No, pain will still visit you. People will still misunderstand. Life will still change. But the suffering, the clinging, the anger, the blaming, the inner storms that will slowly melt away like ice under sunlight. How? By awakening. Not suddenly, not all at once, but like morning light entering a dark room. Little by little. This awakening is not magic. It is understanding. When we truly understand the nature of life, the grip of suffering begins to loosen. Let me give you a very small, simple example. Imagine you're holding a cup of hot tea. It is too hot. It burns your hand. Now, most people keep holding it, blaming the tea, cursing the cup, screaming at others. But awakening means realizing you can simply put the cup down. No drama. No numb. Just awareness. This is how suffering ends. Not with a fight, but with wisdom. Now let's look deeper into what the Buddha really taught. The end of suffering is called nirvana. It does not mean becoming nothing. It means becoming free. It is the moment when the fire of craving, hatred, and ignorance goes out. That fire has burned inside us for lifetimes. What can be extinguished? When we stop chasing what we think will make us happy. When we stop running from what we think will make us sad. When we simply see, clearly, purely, without distortion, peace is born. You may ask, is it even possible for someone like me to reach that state? Yes, it is, because awakening is not for monks alone. It's not locked in temples. It's for you, for every being who wants to wake up from the dream of suffering. You begin by watching your thoughts like clouds in the sky. You do not follow them. You do not fight them. You simply watch. Slowly, the mind becomes less noisy. Slowly, the heart becomes lighter. And soon, the things that once hurt you no longer pull you down. Not because they disappeared, but because you change the way you see them. Freedom is not about changing the world. It's about changing your relationship with it. You see, the real cause of suffering was never outside. Not the people, not the pain. It was always how you held onto those things inside your mind. So what do you do now? You let go. You forgive those who hurt you. Not for their sake, but for your peace. You release regrets, not to forget them, but because they don't define you anymore. You stop clinging to what you think should have happened, and start accepting what is. You trust life, and you trust that even if things go wrong, you have something unshakable within you: awareness. That awareness is your true home. That is what ends suffering. But remember, this is not a race. Awakening is not a destination. It is the unfolding of your true nature. Be patient. Be gentle with yourselves. Some days, you will fall back into pain. That's okay. Come back. Seat. Breathe. Begin again. Even the Buddha, before his enlightenment, faced deep suffering. But he did not run from it. He sat under the Bodhi tree, still, honest, awake. And in that stillness, he saw everything clearly and became free. You too can find your own Bodhi tree. Not in the forest, but in your heart. Now, before we close, listen carefully. There's no need to seek peace. You already are peace. You only have to remove what blocks it. Like the moon hidden by clouds, it never disappears. You just have to wait for the clouds to pass. This moment, right now, is enough. Don't wait for another life, another day, another chance. Begin now, just by being aware, just by being kind, just by breathing. And if this series has touched something deep inside you, don't let it fade away like a dream. Carry it with you. Live it. Share it. Practice it. And if you feel ready, share this wisdom with others too. Now, let us say one last thing, not as monks, not as teachers, but as fellow travelers. There's so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% subscribed. So if you felt peace in your heart, even for a moment, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wisdom Woven. That small action helps these teachings reach someone else. Someone who may be silently crying tonight, searching for the same peace you just found. Thank you for walking with us. This is not the end. This is the beginning. May your path be gentle. May your heart be free. And may the light within you always guide your way.